Bienvenue, I'm the theoliverpickard, and welcome to beautiful Limousin, France. In fact, it's really beautiful today. It's about 25 degrees. The days are getting longer and they're getting warmer as well. And it's this time of year when many of our minds drift to cruising down beautiful country lanes, going to classic car shows, wind in your hair, windows down, smell of wild garlic, driving through forests, that kind of thing. And it's in the air. And so this week I thought I'd make a video of 5 cars, soft top cars, you can get for 10 grand. And I want you guys to be able to buy a car and service it and have a good, reliable car for the budget that I set. So I always try and find stuff that's well under that budget. And my criteria for this particular video were depreciation. So I want to get blue chip cars for this video. Cars that you can buy, you can use for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, etc. And then you can sell them for as much as you bought them for if you look after them well, and you might actually make a bit of money. I look for availability always, because these videos go all around the world. So I look for cars that are available in America and in Asia and in Europe and everywhere, because you guys are everywhere. I look for value for money, because I want you guys to have as much bang for your buck as humanly possible. I look at parts availability, which I don't think most reviewers do. Most people who make this list, I don't think they look at price of the prices of parts and availability of parts, and I don't think they look at service costs. Obviously, if you're spending 10 grand on a car, you don't want a car that costs 3 grand to service. Any car that is 10 grand and costs 3 grand to service, there's a reason why it's 10 grand. So cars like that instantly get thrown out of the list. I want a car that's a really good car to drive, whatever that means. So I want a car that's really good at doing the thing that it does. A car that's really reliable, because unreliable cars suck. You want to spend as much time driving the car as possible. And if you want to modify it, if you want to make it better or do things to it, that's fine. But you don't want to be repairing stuff that should be working. And in this case, with soft top cars, always, I look at fun. Because there's always going to be someone out there with a faster car. But there may not be anybody out there with a car that's more fun. I bought my car, Jolene, because she's flipping fun to drive. I can drive to the supermarket and she's fun, and I get smiles and waves from people as I drive past, and that's awesome. And that makes her. It's one of the reasons to own her, and it's one of the reasons to buy any classic car. So my budget's 10 grand because Mx5, Miata, Mazda Unos, because the Mx5 is always the answer. I'm excluding the Mx5 from this list because every single number one on every single list I've looked at says Mx5. It's always the answer. You want a rear-wheel drive car that's cheap, enthusiastic to drive, has decent performance, good reliability, good parts availability. It's an Mx5. But that's boring. So the Mx5 is excluded. So is every car that's not a full drop head. What I mean by that is the 2CV and Targa tops and stuff like that are out. I want a full soft top car, the windows go down, the top goes down, and you are in a full soft top car. Sorry, there's a French bulldog walking past. Go on, Lilo. But 2CVs are really good soft tops. So, without further ado, let's get stuck into the list. As many of you know, I love Land Rovers. I do. They're a passion of mine, they're a love of mine. I grew up with Land Rovers. I grew up in the north of England. There was Land Rovers everywhere. And they weren't cool. They were farm utility vehicles, and they were awesome, and they were badass. And they were camel trophy, and there was all of that great stuff. Love them. But something's happened to Land Rovers in the last few years, and that is the Chelseaification of Land Rovers, the blinging up of Land Rovers, the fact that they've become cool. And I'm thoroughly against Land Rovers being cool, because they were cool to start with before people started messing with them, and before everyone else realised they were cool. I'm a Land Rover hipster. I understand that. But that also means that they're now worth a fortune. And you can't get a really good one in a lot of markets. I understand, if you're in the north of England, you might be able to find a good Series 2 or something that's really cool for under 10 grand. But realistically, in most places, you can't. But there is a small, lightweight, four-wheel drive that you can get for under 10 grand. And that's my classic choice, the Jeep CJ. Or in America, I think they call it the flat fender Jeep. Basically, the Jeep that was built after the war. The four-wheel drive, you can get one for well under 10 grand. There's a sneaky little overdrive unit that you can fit in the gearbox. It's about yay big. And that makes them fantastic to drive on the road. Please don't put massive tyres on them. Put the rubbish, but fantastically hard-wearing and brilliantly cheap military tyres, the ones that they're supposed to have on them. If you put big tyres on a four-wheel drive, it gears it down, so it makes it horrifically slow. And CJ Jeeps aren't very fast to begin with, but what they are is incredibly plentiful. The parts are super cheap, and they're a soft top that you can take more than two people in. And they're a full soft top, you know, you can take the doors off and stuff. They're superb. My choice, if I could find one, would be a red one. Just because, I don't know, they're a bit like this, like something out of a Ralph Lauren advert. You could tow a small boat with one and that kind of thing. And for cruising around country lanes, they make a lovely noise. I don't think I'd go for a green one, a military one. Although I might be tempted to if it was like patinaed in just the right way, because they do patina well. So yeah, CJ Jeep. It's a good Land Rover alternative. The later ones, like the Renegades and the 80s ones, they're a bit too fancy for me. They're not quite classic enough. I like the small, skinny 15-inch wheels and the skinny 15-inch tyres, and the little seats and all that thing. I kind of dig that. I love them being small. I love them being really usable. And I like them not looking like a G.I. Joe Jeep, to be honest. So yeah, that'd be my pick. For the second car in this list, these cars, by the way, aren't really ranked in like a top 5. There's not, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of order. They're just 5 awesome cars in any order that you want to put them in. But there had to be an Italian in this list. And I thought about the Fiat Barchetta, and then I realised that there's a car that's much, much cooler than a Fiat Barchetta. And that's the Alfa Romeo GTV Spider, the one from the early 2000s. Yes, they're front-wheel drive, but they are a beautifully balanced front-wheel drive. And they are the car that made Alfa Romeo cool again. I wouldn't go for the V6, I'd go for the 2-litre, the 4-cylinder. And the reason is, it's lighter on the front wheels, it's a better balanced car, and it's a better driving car, even though it's not as fast. Because you're exposed to the elements, so overall speed isn't as important as fun to drive. I was able to find one online for €7,500 with about 35,000 miles on, a full Alfa Romeo service history. The thing was mint. And that's good because it's an Alfa Romeo, and when you go through it, you may need to replace a few things, but you would be able to for a 10 grand budget. 7.5 grand for an Italian soft top roadster is fantastic value for money. Britain buys more soft top cars than anybody else, and I have no idea why, because where I come from, it rains nearly 300 days a year. Maybe hope springs eternal, but because of that obsession with soft tops and roadsters, Britain has made some fantastic soft top sports cars over the years, and so I had a lot to choose from, but the car that I chose was the Spridget, which is the MG Midget or the Austin Healey Sprite Mark II. They're the exact same car, different grille, different badges, same car though. It's small, it's got a choice of either a 1500 engine, which I would not go for. The 1500 engine, it was problematic in its time. Many of them have been sorted out, but the better engine to go for is the 1275cc A series engine, which is the engine from the Mini. It's the engine from the Mini Cooper. And the A series is an absolutely fantastic engine. They do leak a little bit of oil. They sweat power, as a friend of mine once said. But they are massively reliable. The timing chain in that thing you only change when you can hear it above the gearbox. You can get every single part. In fact, you can buy an entire new engine. And the Spridger, in my opinion, is one of the best soft-top cars, well, British soft-top cars for virtually any price. They're brilliant. And you can do whatever you want with them. You can turn them into a track day weapon, or you can turn them into like a bit of a classic, you know, vintage racing car. Or you can just have them as a nice classic cruisy car for days, going on picnics and going for a pub lunch and that kind of thing. They're wonderfully versatile and they're beautifully serviceable, and that's like everything you could ask for from a soft-top car, to be rear-wheel drive and manual and Mx5 like, but smaller and easier to drive and better looking. They're cute. Now then, on to car number 4, and I have a confession to make. I am a massive pre-war car geek. I love pre-war racing cars, I love pre-war saloon cars, I love pre-war cars. They are awesome. The amount of ingenuity, the amount of engineering, the amount of different stuff people tried. But for this list, there was a car I had to include, and that car is the Ford Model T. Yes, for 10 grand you can't buy the super fancy cabriolet with the brass grille and like the show-winning concourse-y thing. You can't get one. They're just above the budget. But for 10 grand, you can buy a super awesome, like, shit kickery soft top pickup. I also found a 4-seater soft top, like a family soft top, for this price, well under this budget. You can get absolutely everything for them. In fact, Ford Model A's and Model T's are the most covered, like, pre-war car as far as parts availability. It's unreal. And there are some Model A parts that fit on Model T's, but a Model A is just not in the budget. You might be able to get like a barn find crusty one that you'll have to do up, but by the time you finish doing it up, it'll be well above that 10 grand budget. But a Model T you can get for that 10 grand budget. And I've found loads for sale with beautiful patina, and they're incredible. And you can get everything, like I said, everything for them. They even do a thing called a Z head, or a Z head, the Americans call it, which is an aluminium copy of a Model T head, but it has better cooling and it has better compression. In fact, just bolting this, or it's a flathead engine, which means the valves are next to the piston, and it's like the combustion chamber looks like Mickey Mouse's head. The Z head increases the power by like 7 brake horsepower, and you can fit one in an afternoon. Like, you can get everything for them, absolutely everything. They still make new parts, although the original parts are made of chrome vanadium, all the engine parts, which is the same stuff spanners are made of, seriously. So they can get snowed on, they can get rained on, they just don't care, and they just shrug it off, which is why they've lasted 90 years. And that's awesome, isn't it? So yeah, they're definitely a driver's car, because you have to be paying attention when you're driving them. Yes, they've got weird planetary gears in the gearbox, and yes, it's all weird, but it's also awesome and great fun. And I really, really want one. So please don't buy them all, or drive the price up. So on to the 5th and final car in this list. And this one comes with an honourable mention, because I thought very long and hard about including the Golf Mark 1 Cabriolet into this list. But, you know, they made loads of them, and they're really good. But there is a VW Cabriolet that is better than the Golf Mark 1 Cabriolet. It's also arguably worse, but I would have to go for the VW Type 181, or the VW Thing as it's better known. Yes, they're weird. Yes, they're a bit odd looking, but they're also air cooled and a VW. And VW people are insane. I love you guys. You're superb, and I love the things that you do to your cars. But you're also mental. You are, and it's awesome. And what you are buying when you buy a VW Thing, when you buy an air cooled VW, you're not so much buying a car as you are buying an entry into a community. You are buying an entry into a world. Like, just look at how many air-cooled VW magazines there are out there. It's incredible. Underneath a VW Thing, there is a VW Beetle floor pan, and there is a VW Beetle engine, and there is a VW Beetle gearbox, and there are VW Beetle brakes. And because of that, like, air-cooled VWs have more aftermarket parts support than anything, more than 2CVs, more than Minis, more than Mustangs, more than anything. As far as a cult car goes, the VW Thing is the cultiest, or the air-cooled VW is the cultiest. And it also looks a damn sight better with surfboards on the roof than a VW Golf Cabriolet does. They are just cooler. Yes, they have a terrible heater. In fact, some VW Things had a second petrol engine under the bonnet that was just existing there to be a heater. The heater sucks. It does on all Beetles. And in their own way, the VW Thing is really pretty. It's that ugly pretty. And because of that, and because you can make it your own, and you can do anything you want with it, it had to be on this list. You can get new engines, you can get new gearboxes with any gearbox ratio you can dream of. If you want, you can build a VW Thing drag racer. You can slam it on the ground. You can restore it to like concourse as it left the factory perfection. You can do anything you want with it. So that is my list of weird and wonderful cars that you can have for 10 grand. And if you are considering buying a second car, if this isn't your first car, of course, you could have any of these cars as a first car. Except maybe the Model T. But if you're mental enough, yeah, why not? You could have them as a first car, but if you're considering them as a second car, be brave, be bold. Why wouldn't you buy something mental? Why wouldn't you be a total individual and do whatever you want to do? And these are 5 really, really good alternatives. So, with that, thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, and most of all, sharing. You guys sharing these videos on YouTube and on your social media has massively, massively helped this channel. And we've seen growth in the last few months that I've never seen before on this channel. So that's absolutely amazing. Thank you to each and every one of you that shares these videos and that subscribes and likes and all that. It's all huge. And it's all massively, massively helpful to this channel. And it all means a lot to me. So thank you very, very much. And your lovely comments are always appreciated. Please be awesome to each other. And I'll see you all in the next video. Cheers.